Hi, this is Jill with PhocusWire, and we're here at the Focusrite conference in Amsterdam. Today we're joined by a couple of folks from the Young Leaders Summit, which is a program that looks at up-and-coming sort of rising stars of the travel industry. So we're joined here today with Aurelie Krau and Clissett. So hi guys, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Great. So let's just start off by you guys kind of giving a brief introduction to who you are, the companies you're with, and why you're here.
Okay.
Sure. Well, my name's Aurelie Krau. I'm based in Paris, France. I'm with Festive Road. We are a consultancy, travel management and marketing services. We just sit in the whole middle of the business travel ecosystem, engaging with buyers and looking at different ways to approach business travel.
And I'm Clissett. I'm from FindHotel. We're based here in sunny Amsterdam.
Very.
We say we're the world's most customer-focused hotel booking platform.
Okay.
So we're a bit of a meta search. We're a bit of an OTA, trying to deliver on the promise of meta search, which we don't think has been fully realized yet.
Awesome. And how long have your respective companies been around?
3 years.
3 years?
For me.
FindHotel is now 7 years, I believe.
7 years, okay, great, awesome. And this is day 2 of the conference here. Can you talk a bit about what you saw on day 1 that kind of got you really excited about what might be happening in the industry, and also what you're looking forward to today?
My highlight, I think, was Battleground and the launch. So I was happy to be selected as part of the panel of the launch. So it was always really nice to have the opportunity to share some feedbacks. And most importantly, what I'm looking at in my job and for our customers is what's new on the market, what are the new ideas, how can we reinvent the way that that we are doing things right now. So it's always very nice to get some fresh perspectives from startups or even settled companies who all try to innovate.
Mm-hmm. And what are you looking forward to today?
Today, so I'm really looking forward as well for our lunch, because we have a Young Leaders lunch.
Yeah.
So it's a very good opportunity as well to engage and have very intimate discussions with our speakers. So that's really nice. And I'm particularly looking forward to Google.
Okay.
At the end of the day, to hear hearing what they have to share.
They always give good presentations.
I can imagine.
And you?
Yeah, and I think actually the Young Leaders stuff has, at least for me, been the most beneficial so far. So we had some great speakers there, really great personal discussions. They weren't even on stage actually. They came and sat at the table with us.
I know him.
Yeah, we had such good debate. That's been really powerful. And I actually think some of the workshop sessions yesterday afternoon were really interesting, just to get a flavour for what's going on in the industry, and to get let's say a much deeper dive perspective on a couple of key topics. So for example, WorldPay had a really interesting workshop about payments and where they see that going, and especially as someone B2C, that's super interesting. Gaining those insights, gaining that experience is really good for us.
Yeah, one of the workshops that I found really interesting was the Expedia one on bleisure or bleisure. I guess depends on where you live in the world, how you say it. But just the way that he sort of positioned it as it's a business, and his comment on the clothing companies that are getting involved in it, and so I'm curious, as young travelers yourself, how you see that bleisure movement in particular, and how can travel companies kind of capitalize on that?
Oh, to me, echoed so well. I mean, bleisure is my lifestyle, so I'm happy to to have a lot of flexibility with my job. So I travel a lot, doing a lot of events. So whenever I can, I extend. So obviously, I listened very carefully to the survey that they presented. It is a major trend. I don't think it's new, because I think you would agree, bleisure has been around for a long time. But now we actually have a name against the phenomenon.
Yeah.
And what we observe with Festive Road, because we're very close to the buyers community and procurement people, so there is a strong demand from travelers who want to reduce the gap between what they are experiencing in the leisure travel environment and business travel environment, and are looking at ways to integrate that within their travel programs. And that's one of the questions I asked Expedia on stage yesterday.
Oh, okay. That was you.
That was me.
I think as well, more and more companies are treating it as a perk as well. So there's actually
that was an interesting point of it too.
There's a handful of startups specializing
Fully
in this
agree.
in the US, and
Yes.
I think, and again for us it's great. So
in the US must be even bigger than in Europe.
Yeah, really limited or no kind of vacation there, and we do it here again. Especially, I think being in the industry, it's easy. We try and support all of our guys to travel as much as they can, see as much of the world as they can. It strengthens us. It builds those relationships. I think seeing that, like you say, putting a name on something, I think it's going to be really interesting to see over the next years and especially how you manage the complexity. So moving from that corporate background, that difficulty of how I manage the expensing, how I manage that whole processing.
Right. Yes, it's the whole. Yes, it's the whole. What's behind the scene? How can I deal with this as a company? But I mean, I fully agree with you. It's a perk. So it also contributes a lot to how attractive a company is, based on the conditions that you offer to your employees.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with it. I agree with that there, definitely. And so looking at you, you mentioned that you're kind of excited about being in the young leaders, and you get to, it's a great networking opportunity for most importantly. But sort of looking at what being a young leader kind of means to you, and how does being a young leader help you impact the travel industry, particularly in the tech realm, because travel isn't always thought of as being the most tech forward. They're trying, but it's not always there. So like, what can you guys kind of bring to the technology space in particular as young leaders?
I think there's a few. Actually, I challenge that a little bit. So I think, again, speaking as a young leader, I really see more and more the Airbnbs of the world, the bookings of the world. I think they've made it a very interesting space, and we see more and more people saying they want to move from what would also have been considered kind of traditional sectors, and saying, actually, for us, travel is really interesting. Travel like this, and again, it comes with built-in passion. I have zero passion for fintech. I'm really happy that someone does and thinks about that. I love to travel. It's such a pleasurable experience, and a chance to kind of share that with the world, I think, is so powerful. And I definitely hear more and more of that. And I think anything we can do to kind of support that message and to show that actually there's so much innovation possible within this sector.
I agree, and I think probably our 2 cents as young leaders, I think we're part of a generation that has contributed to shifting on behaviors. Because for us, internet and social media is something completely natural because we grew up with this. So for us, it's just like, oh yeah, Facebook has been around forever, and now Instagram is very powerful. So I would say that a whole majority of us are looking at social media to get recommendations, on places where to go, and even to reflect the business travel side, what we are observing with Festive Road. Even companies are looking at giving share of voice to business travelers by having a platform where they can share reviews or recommend hotels among colleagues. So all those phenomena, the behavioral phenomena, they are not all brought by young generations, but I think it really contributes to how we approach things like the rise of mobile. If you're looking at emerging countries, like we saw that yesterday on stage, I was mind blown by the penetration rate of mobile booking in China. Versus Europe, I was like, wow. I took a picture, I tweeted that because it's just, I was mind blown. So if you're looking at India, it's the same, Brazil. And these are, I would say, the markets that have an even louder voice because it's a mobile first approach. It's really interesting to observe this.
Yeah, definitely. So looking at travel in general, what would you kind of say that the biggest misconception is that you've kind of noticed within the industry?
We tend to say that business travel is not sexy. But some people tell me, leisure travel is much more fun. But it actually is really interesting because we have reached like a tipping point. This whole influence, this whole consumerization phenomenon, the influence from the leisure travel, Airbnb coming in the game with Airbnb for Work, Uber, all those startups. We see pilots running. So I think it's a really exciting moment to sit specifically
to really
in that
kind of get
yes.
business travel, get it. Get its reputation up there a little bit.
Yeah. And I really think, I mean, that my biggest surprise over the last few days is how little people have talked about certain players that I would say are really key in the industry. I've barely heard the word Facebook. I've barely heard the word Amazon as an example.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think there's a bit of the devil you know kind of approach. There's a lot of talk. Everyone has been saying, okay, we need to be concerned about Google. We need to think about Google. And that's really valid, really relevant, but I think there's a whole kind of area of disruption out there, which is, I think the guys from Facebook touched on it yesterday. They were talking about what they've seen in terms of influencing with Instagram, and I think you've got some of these platforms out in the world. The Facebook statistic was really interesting, right?
Yes.
People spending like a quarter of their time on their mobile device, and a large chunk of that in messaging, on social media. And I think at the minute we treat this as a side avenue. We treat it as a channel, and these are really platforms. People are spending large parts of their lives there, right? And I've actually been surprised at how little I've heard that brought up so far. Maybe people are just whispering it under their breath. They don't want to awaken the dragon.
Hear it.
If we don't draw attention to it, it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
That's the thinking,
But
right?
again, on innovation, I think you mentioned that we're all passionate people. I mean, if you're in travel, you're passionate. Otherwise, you just leave that industry and you're doing finance. I mean, it doesn't mean that finance people are not passionate. But I think that everybody is trying to transform or enhance the travel industry. But what I believe as well is that we all need to work together, because you don't innovate alone. You innovate when people move all together.
Right, yeah.
And I think this is something we need to work on a little bit more, sharing and engaging all together to make things move.
Right, yeah. Kind of get out of the silos of you do this in your sector, and you do this in our sector, and kind of making that work together. I want to shift a little bit, Lee. I wanted to talk about hotels, and so on PhocusWire we've had a couple articles recently about hotels and direct bookings. Are they good for hotels, or are they not good for hotels? Very, very heated stuff if you haven't read it. So as a meta search platform, how do you sort of see the direct booking?
I think the way we see it is that, look, anything we can do to grow the market is good for us, right? Okay. And there's very few companies I know who are out there trying to take market share from somebody else. We would all benefit, and we all enjoy any opportunity we can and to kind of grow the spend there. And you hear it from the guys from Hotel Beds were on stage yesterday, and again saying, they say, okay, this is meant to be incremental. This is meant to be taking that 70% occupancy rate and increasing it. Mm-hmm. I think more and more there's two blockers which are falling. So one of them would be the ability for hotels to get involved and understand these things, and I think there's kind of tooling out there starting to help them now in terms of understanding their price in the market, understanding the options. And I think we're all in this game. I don't just put it on the hotels either.
Right. Absolutely,
prices, there's a lot of the market at the moment is too incentivized towards keeping prices very high, which is, and this is a triangle. It's great for us as a company. It's great for the hotel. It's less great for the consumer, and there is a balance to be found there. And I think that's the key now, is about, like you mentioned, having that open conversation, finding what's that balance, what's right for the hotels, what's right for us as a meta search, what's right for the customer. Right. There has to be a sweet spot, and what we need to do, in my opinion, is reduce this kind of arms race. I think we need to have an open discussion about it.
That goes back to what you say. We can all work together a little bit.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think it will benefit everybody, really.
Yeah, but even direct distribution is a big deal right now as well in the airline industry.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is becoming mainstream. So the distribution strategies of airlines as well are starting to change. So there's a whole conversation as well on like new entrants coming in the middle of aggregators or GDSs making their model evolve as well to aggregate the APIs. So yes, distribution is one of the hot topic, I would say, of the moment.
Yeah,
in our
it's
industry.
interesting just how many different opinions on, because you can really come at it from any angle. And I think to your point, at the end of the day, it's kind of how do you just make it better, and how do you work together, and that's kind of the fundamental question that people need to answer.
Exactly.
It really is, and I don't think it benefits very many people in this room today to fight over the same share of the same pie. I think we're all going to be competing. There's plenty of competition here. It's fantastic, but our prime focus, if we can grow that pie, it's better for everybody. You know, the tide's lifting all boats. So
yes,
definitely.
I agree.
And Aurelie, I have a question for you about personalization and how your company, because the travelers are demanding more personalized offerings all the time. How does that change the companies that you're working with and how they engage with their either business travelers or whoever it may be?
So that's the most interesting part of what we're doing right now. Is like travel managers and buyers have just noticed that the traditional way to approach business travel doesn't work really anymore. Right. It's like really classic. If you are an executive, you are entitled to such conditions. If you are that type of traveler, you do this. And it doesn't really work because it's the total opposite of personalization. Right. So they are looking at patterns. Microsoft, well, they are very big. They are 75,000 travelers. So it's a big program. Yeah. But what they have done, they have created personas. So they have 4 personas based on, they took 11 data sources that they just compiled the data. They have the tech in-house to do it.
They can do that.
Yes, they really show the way. Yeah. And they said, okay, so I haven't identified those 4 patterns, and I'm trying to offer a different travel program or specific offers based on the profiles of my travelers. But if you're everybody's not Microsoft.
Exactly.
Of course.
Limited resources, a lot of these companies.
But it simply starts with engaging with your travelers, asking them what do they want. Because if you ask them, they will tell you what they want.
That's very true.
They will tell you. So that's how sharing economy has entered the market, because they said, I'd rather stay in an Airbnb or an apartment rather than a hotel. Yeah. So that's how they became a bit more flexible and really listened to what travelers wanted. It's the same for apps, for example. Oh, I love consumer apps. I mean, with all the information on destinations or restaurants that are around or activities, this is where we tackle leisure as well. Yeah. So this is how they are looking at improving the experience of their travelers.
I also think what's really interesting is there's 2 sides to this coin. There's the ability to offer personalized offerings, and there's the ability to derive what the consumer wants, and there's actually a match in the middle. And I think Secret Escape spoke about it yesterday on stage. That I don't think anybody has yet cracked this piece of how do I really understand that, like in a deep way, what this consumer's looking for. Yes. I think we can do a really good job at the matching on the back end. This consumer is going to really enjoy this particular hotel, this particular experience. But at the minute, other than these, Accor have their kind of mood board approach, where it's like me starting up Spotify. I can pick the type of feelings that I like, and they'll try and match with me. But that's not a practical experience for most stages of the funnel. So I think how we connect these 2 kind of pieces, that inflection point, that's going to be really important, I think.
And even with a business travel lens, the constraint is that you need to monitor your costs. So you need to be able, to control this as well. So that's the major difficulty for buyers.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Great. So we'll wrap up real quick. Let's look ahead a little bit. What sort of new technologies do you kind of think will have the biggest impact, be it voice technology? There's lots going on with chatbots and stuff. What do you think is going to really kind of have an impact on where the industry goes next?
So my view is that technology is going to become transparent. And I think this is where we'll get to the point where it will be very mature. So yes, we're talking about voice commands. And I think that the penetration is not that bad. But I think it's Facebook who said it yesterday. It is going to change, it changes the user experience. And to me, like, I'm looking a lot at the AI space, but mostly as predictive technology as well. Like, you do have players on the market that tell you, oh no, don't book your flight now. The price is gonna go down in 2 days. So all these tech that will help you as a traveler make a decision and make a decision with all the different, being aware of all the different criteria. Blockchain probably has a good potential. These are our buzzwords, of course, but beyond buzzword, I think we really need to think concretely from my user experience perspective, what do I win with this tech?
I think it plays into the distribution point that you mentioned.
Yes.
So I actually think, for me, there's two big things. So, and one I think has been a kind of buzzword in the industry for a long time is this connectivity piece. So no matter what I want to do, if the guys at Destigo were part of the pitches yesterday, and again, everything they build is reliant on, I have to have somewhere I can go, I can request structured data that I can then use. It doesn't matter, the actual interface, there's services lots of startups use like Twilio where if I can make an interface to them, it doesn't matter if it's Alexa or Google or Siri or a chatbot, it's completely irrelevant. So I think
just be agnostic.
And I think that connectivity will be key, and I think blockchain's definitely I think we're in that hype cycle at the moment, so I'm going to be really interested when that hype sort of starts folding
Catch the
away.
winding tree talk today.
And I really think that there's an opportunity there to kind of help simplify, to help open up distribution, make it much fairer, much more transparent. I think that's really important. Personally, I think the most interesting thing is going to be how do we take these one answer platforms and make them usable for the consumer. So one answer would be if I ask my Alexa, hey, what hotel should I book in Amsterdam? It can't give me a list of every hotel I want.
That's true.
It picks one hotel for me, right? The same, if I ask a chatbot, maybe I get a little carousel of 3 or 4 hotels. And so far, that's the experience we've seen from everybody who's offering this. And I think it's going to be a great use case for book me a cab, tell me what the weather's like, help me manage my booking, those kind of things.
Or business travel, because if you travel to New York every week and you stay at the exact same hotel, you can say, Alexa, book me my
It's
my
repetitive.
W,
but even to go beyond that, you don't even have a user trigger, because the technology will understand by itself that you are traveling there. So basically, you only need to validate and to push the itinerary that's going to be proposed to you. And that's what I mean as well when I say I believe tech at some point will become transparent, because everything will run behind the scene. And we as users we'd only have to say yes, still using voice, or just like hit a button to say, okay, let's book, and payment, everything will follow seamlessly.
All right, well, we're up on time here, so this has been great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.